Hey guys, welcome back. I'm gonna put a few things out there. Again, my mind is just going in all sorts of different directions, and I know a lot of you think the same way that I do, but maybe some of you don't. And I'm always gathering intel, taking things in, and when I start to see one thing on top of another, just singular events that stack on top of each other, that I can kind of tell are a form of foreshadowing, or, you know, puzzle pieces that are adding up to a whole puzzle. Maybe I'm totally off about this, but I cannot help my mind from thinking this. So I'm going to throw a few events that have happened over maybe the last year, maybe less, and tell me what you would deduce from this. And I'll try to include like short clips of the articles, or, you know, something that's associated with it up here. So maybe a few months back, I don't know, probably 6 months or less. Does anybody remember the whole thing that came out on Facebook about people were seeing a Facebook warning, I guess, saying, do you know somebody who's too prepared? And they were basically trying to get people to rat out preppers, or people that they knew that were getting prepared for just anything, life, you know, emergencies, things that could cause you trouble. That's what we prep for, anything. I'm not a Facebook person, I don't do it, so I never really saw it, but I saw people posting about this like warning that Facebook was putting out on different groups. Like there was a canning group, just sharing with each other about their like canning experiences. It was posted there, this warning was, and so that's one thing. They start out by saying people are getting too prepared. Or do you know somebody who's too prepared? Can you ever be too prepared, by the way? Is that a thing? I don't think so. Anyway, maybe a month, 2 months ago, this thing comes out about a DHS memo or report about, I can't say the two words, it's DT, but I'm just going to say Homeland Tourist. Hopefully you can figure out what I'm trying to say. I think most of you would understand, but it was a Department of Homeland Security memo or something that came out about Homeland tourists I think you guys all remember this. Many of the larger prepper channels talked about it. Magic Prepper did. And then just recently, apparently, the FBI came out and said that they have a credible and tangible threat that Homeland tourist groups may be plotting and planning to take down the grid. So who do they qualify, or who do they group into the Homeland tourist category? You may already see where I'm going with this. What is one huge thing that preppers have been preparing for a very long time? Grid down. We prepare for it because of outside threats, not internal threats, outside threats. There could be a hacker situation, there could be an EMP from an enemy nation, there could be a CME from the sun, it could be a weather condition that brings down the grid. But we prepare for it because we're preppers. And I just see these little steps kind of building up on top of each other, where they may try to pin some kind of an attack on people like you and I. And I hate to even say those words. Obviously, that's the worst thing in the world. That's the worst case scenario that preppers plan for. Grit down would be the absolute worst. I mean, besides nuclear fallout, grit down is like your worst case scenario. And we would hate for that to happen. We would do anything and everything to have it not happen, and to plan for things to go as well as they possibly can. So why in the freaking world would we, hopefully they don't try to actually pin it on people like ourselves, but why in the world would we want that? No, it's silly. So obviously we all know that that's not something that any of us would be into or plotting or planning, and they probably know that none of us would be into that or plotting or planning it. But they need to, let's see, how do I say this? If something were to happen and the grid were to go down, and it happened to be our own government that did it, they would need to blame it on someone. You can blame it on Russia because they've already had all these Russian hacker threats and everything. So yeah, they could very likely blame it on Russia, even though it was them that did it. But how else do you create a huge divide? How else do you create an enemy from within, an enemy within your own people? It would be a way of pitting us all against each other in the very worst way. I mean, I could totally see a civil dispute, a CW coming out of something like that. If all the news agencies gathered together and said, it's these prepper people, they've obviously been planning for it for a long time, they're all prepared for it, those are your enemies, those are the people, they did it. You see where I'm going? And I sometimes wish I didn't think this way, but I think it's important to gather intel and see how these things all seem to work together, because they do foreshadow. The news stations foreshadow. The information that comes out is kind of like breadcrumbs, like small breadcrumbs. They put it out there. They tell you what's going to happen. It's almost like this ritual that they have, and I believe it is, that they have to tell you what they're going to do before they do it. But they don't just say it outright. They got to leave you breadcrumbs just to see who's actually listening, who's paying attention. And basically that's where my mind's going with that. So ponder it, maybe comment down below. Please do not use the words DT or homeland tourist in the comment section though. Can't wait to see what you guys have to say about that.